everyone. I hope you can hear me well. And it's so nice to be virtually back in Maldives. I think, it's the same as how I would love to be there. But unfortunately, due to COVID, we have to do it this way. But it is such a privilege to be on this platform to contribute in the area of learning and development. So today my topic is on more on mentoring, and that's how I would like to close the session. Eddie opened the session on coaching, and I will just kind of join it and focus more on mentoring and how it can enhance the leadership performance. Now, I have a lot of people watching today, and they are my clients, my student, and I just want to say thank you for the support. And it is a little bit of a pressure being the ending keynote speaker. That's really because I want to make sure that we end off with a bang, and that we take home something really valuable at the end of the day. So without further ado, I like to just engage you very quickly in terms of I usually like to ask this question when I start off any speaking, is that have you emptied your cup lately? Since I'm the last speaker, and we sat here and listened to some really awesome content over the last 2 days. I want you to just think through this question and then maybe message me very quickly on the chat box. What do you think I'm asking you? So what do you mean? What do I mean by have you emptied your cup lately? Could you just write something, so that I can know you're there? And what does this mean to you? Who refilled that cup? Okay, unlearn. Very good. It's about unlearning and relearning, right? Taking on new ideas. Yep. Brain food. Very good. Refilling your cup. Very good. As seasoned L&D professionals, HR professionals, and I'm sure there are some business people here as well, GMs and so on and so forth. We come from a variety of background, and a lot of us are very experienced, right? So do we always have this habit of, putting aside what we think we know and coming here with a fresh new perspective? What is our mindset and our attitude when we go for seminars like this, speaking engagements like this, trainings, workshops? What is our attitude, right? And I think that's also part of role modeling as a leader, is that how hungry we are to learning, how hungry we are to changing, right? And today I really encourage you that, since we are talking about coaching, mentoring, leadership, if you have certain preconceived notion and also think that a certain way, be open-minded enough to perhaps look at a new way of doing things. It's all part of change management, right? I guess even in today's time, it is about opening up our mind, having that growth mindset. And as a leader, we role model that every day. So I'll start off with a little bit of introduction of who I am. And I think for many who have known me, God has opened the door for me to start doing Maldives work in 2008. And I'm very blessed. The first project was Barros, and I have worked with them 10 years. I've helped them to achieve a #1 on TripAdvisor, and God has opened other doors in many other resorts in Maldives. And I'm so blessed because my life is so enriched with the people that I meet, the GMs that I know, the students that I teach, and we have a conference today on Facebook and so on. So this is my life in a nutshell. I have traveled to the Maldives about 4 to 5 times a year and really do the project. But I also do a lot of work in the Southeast Asian region, including Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, Singapore itself, Malaysia, Indonesia, and China. So, but Maldives is a special place. It's like a second home to me. And but after training all these resorts, meeting all these people, I really see a common trend. And the common trend is, what's the key issue? The key issue is always weak leadership, and the key issue is always weak competencies. And that's the reason why I come back over and over again to teach the same thing. And the sad part is that we always see different people, different faces. Every time I come back, I can go to a resort, every year, and I see new faces. And it's really sad in a way. It's great in a way because I get to know new people, but it's sad because we don't provide enough room for development for these people so that they can see a future in that place. And to retain our staff, it is so wasted. All the stuff that we have to teach them and when they leave, a lot of them leave in a bitter manner, and they felt that, they're not happy. And in short, really just weak leadership and a lot of skill gaps in the area of competency. So what can we do? And I think as, I'm talking on this platform, I'm aware that, a good 60-70% are hoteliers, hospitality people, with another 20-30% of other industries. But this is like a never-ending glass of water that you keep filling up and it keeps leaking, and we need to kind of stop this, because if not, then your organization is not going to be as competitive moving forward, because we will always be dealing with high turnover and retraining all the time, right? So now, what is the biggest issue when we talk about leaders, right? I do see this a lot, and I'll probably be saying a lot of my experience, what I've seen in the Maldives. We do hire a lot of, Maldives hire a lot of foreign talent, expats, right? And they come from all over. But the common trend, what I see is that as leaders, they always mistake that their position is a boss versus a leader, right? So what I see is, example, they drive employees versus coaching employees. They depend on authority versus depending on goodwill. They inspire fear and they threat on position and power versus generate enthusiasm and relationship. We talk about a lot of them. They know how it's done, but they don't show how it's done. And they take credit instead of giving credit. They use people instead of developing people. So I think these are just a common problem that we see, is that the leadership is weak. What happened is they tend to be very authoritative and autocratic, and in the end, it drives people away and it does not inspire people. So one instill fear, the other is inspire, and we always see the common trend is that it's always the first one. So what do we need to do now, in order to solve this problem? I'm sure you've seen and you've heard this, 75% of people voluntarily leave jobs because they don't quit their jobs, they quit their bosses, right? They quit their managers. And in the end, the business suffer. We talk about high turnover, poor performance, poor talent pipeline, serious conflict. I see that a lot too, because there's a lot of cultural issues as well, that when a person come in, they're not able to adjust to that cultural change. And a leader always have, they end up being so stressed because they have to balance the 3 Ps. When it comes to an organization, the 3 Ps looks at the people, the product, and the process. In a very competitive an industry like Maldives, what really is the biggest issue, right? We know that we cannot thrive on product because it's just a matter of time. Somebody come up with a brand new resort, a better looking product. We cannot thrive on process because, again, it involves money. People just invest more technology, better technology, and it's more efficient and productive. So the only thing that you can thrive on and rely on is the people component, the 3rd P, which is people. But that's also the biggest challenge, because that's the biggest challenge to get it right. We cannot train our people good enough, because what happens is they have a high turnover. They not want to receive your knowledge because they don't respect you. So it becomes a chicken and egg situation where you have poor leadership and weak team members that in the end, ultimately, the business suffer. Yeah, so this is the issue, where we are today and what I normally see in the industry, right? So this is actually by Center of Creative Leadership that talks about the 6 leadership challenges that most people face today. And if you look really, what are the challenges that the leaders face? A lot of it has to do with people management, right? Honing effectiveness, inspiring others, developing employees, leading a team. And I put that diversity and inclusion because that's always one of the biggest challenges that I see in Maldives, where we have, a resort. We have people from Germany, Holland, Russia, Bulgaria, and all these great pool of diversity. But it can work for you, it can work against you, right? And it really depends on how you manage that diversity. A lot of people look at diversity, but they don't look at inclusion. So as a leader, it's really not just about role modeling, but how you manage that cultural component in the workplace. And always see that as a big problem. Recently I've got a feedback that one guy from Germany was very racist to his staff in the kitchen, and that is not a good thing, So we look at how can we help leaders manage this better, leading a team, right, and managing diversity. Guiding change, and I think in today I put that crisis management because it is a very real problem we have today. How do we provide that leadership and that calmness and that plan when it comes to crisis, that we have to quickly change. And leaders often struggle in that area as well because they don't have enough strong backbone when we talk about leading the organization and managing change. Managing stakeholders is another one, whether or not your relationship is directly having to manage the owners or, other stakeholders, board of directors, and that's also another challenge. But if you look at, the top 6 leadership challenge of today, it is really in the area of people, right? And so what happened is, over the years, I also see that there are a lot of leaders who climb up the corporate ladder and who climb up the ranks, who are functionally very strong, but people management-wise very weak. So I end up calling them lopsided leaders, right? Lopsided leaders are leaders who are very strong in the area of technical skills and functional skills, but not be necessarily strong in the area of people management. And if we continue to not do anything about that, then you're going to have ultimately a top leader that's going to be lopsided. So if you look at the countries around the world, it doesn't have to be just hospitality. Skill shortages are always another big challenge. So now I put there, weak leaders lead to weak teams. So, like I said, it's a chicken and egg situation. So what do we need to do? How do we need to solve this so that we can concurrently solve the skills issue, the skills gap, and at the same time develop great leaders so that they can lead the organization? Because ultimately, with no great leaders and no strong leadership, then that's always going to be a challenge in the area of skill gaps. So when we talk about leadership, it has to change in terms of mindset and also in terms of attitude, right? In the past, it is very, very old-fashioned, iron rice bowl kind of mindset where I work from paycheck to paycheck. But today, even leaders, for them to be inspiring, they also need to look at purpose. They need to think of purpose. I've had very great examples in my life where I was mentored and coached by people, and they helped me discover the purpose in my life. And I think that gem I bring with me wherever I go today, because I remember who was the one who helped and guided me through that moment where I discover, my purpose, and that helped me do my work well. In the past it's about my satisfaction, but right now I think leaders also want to know what's my development and how do I grow in the area of a person contributing to the organization. In the past is very boss autocratic kind of driven, where today it is about coaching. It is about, do I have great mentors that can guide me and show me the journey. In the past it's about annual review, but even today, in order for us to see change and see an increase in performance, you need to start changing that it must be an ongoing conversation and an ongoing kind of constructive feedback that must happen, in order to see that change. In the past, it is about my weakness, but today we look at strength. No point pinpointing weakness, and it's important when we talk about self-development, but that's not going to focus very, if you're just going to be lopsided on weakness, then you make a person feel small in the end because they don't feel that they have value to add in the organization. In the past, it is about my job, but today it is really about my life. Where am I going? What's my life goal? Am I contributing? Do I have a purpose in what I do? So that mindset needs to shift, from responsibility to accountability. And in fact, I want to ask you one question before I move out of this slide, is that, can someone tell me the difference between the word responsibility and accountability? So let's just see what you have here, okay? Can someone give me the difference between responsibility versus accountability? I just need 1 or 2 people just to share the difference. So maybe you want to try responsibility first. What does that mean? And what's the difference with accountability? Yeah, very good. I like that. Yes, it's about ownership, right? And accountable person is the individual who ultimately answerable for everything. It's true. And you know, when we talk about accountability, accountability breeds responsibility, right? But being responsible doesn't mean that you're accountable. So it is actually the key difference is in the mindset. The key difference is in, you know, ownership is mindset. Ownership is about knowing that even if you're not doing the job, you know, you're still answerable for the job. So, you know, as leaders, it doesn't matter which level of leadership you are, you know, when we look at our team and our subordinates, you need to have that mindset of accountability, because accountability will not make you calculative when we talk about, you know, who's doing what job, because you know ultimately you're answerable for everything, right? And it needs, this role modeling needs to start from the top. When we talk about, say, in a resort, a GM needs to have that accountable mindset, and that accountable mindset role modeling will then pass through the senior leadership and into the junior leadership, because it flows down to the organization. When you don't have that kind of mindset and that kind of sense of ownership, then everybody will just, you know, run away, and they feel that was not my job, it's your job, and there will be shifting of responsibilities. And in the end, ultimately, what is the ultimate goal? You know, the customers suffer, right? In an organization like hospitality, the ultimate price you have to pay is inconsistent service. Customers don't get the service that they want. That's because everybody is just running away from what they need to do. But if everybody can just shift into that mindset of accountability, then everybody will cover everybody. You know, it doesn't matter whether you're on day off, whether you're sick, somebody will cover for you, because ultimately they're all accountable to the end result, right? And the other thing is about finding a purpose. You know, like I said, you know, one of the story is that for me, I went through into a mentoring relationship with somebody, and when that person helped me to discover my gifts and my talents and what I need to bring wherever I go, and that sense of purpose lasted with me throughout, you know, my career journey, right? It is two kind of approach, because one is I had a mentor that remind me that when I work, you know, I need to be anchoring on purpose. And the other thing is, of course, through my time in Maldives, I've met so many people. You know, I've had the privilege to conduct so many trainings, and that helped me also discover why I'm here and why I'm contributing. So I will tell you the story later, because I think, you know, I want to save that to towards the end. The other thing is, you cannot solve ultimately, right? Why do we need to shift in leadership mindset? Why do we need to shift in when we talk about, you know, the style of leadership? You cannot solve new world problems with old world mindset and methods. It don't work anymore today. And I think we don't need COVID to remind us, right, that we need to change. We don't need COVID to remind us that not just the mindset, but also the sense of ownership, and we need to be developing leaders, because we need to prepare for situations such as this, right? And if you can prepare for situations such as this, then any situation will become a lot easier for you. Okay, so the other thing is the evolution of a leader's mindset needs to also shift to more growth kind of mindset. So we've heard growth mindset a lot. You know, Iyas was talking about growth mindset, but, you know, as a leader, do we role model this to our team, right? And shift that mindset from this to that. So again, like I said, you know, it's about from motivation to passion, from contributor to ownership, you know, from good to best, right? From being present to looking forward to the future. So, and that leader will not be able to discover that journey alone if that person does not have a good mentor in their life, someone who can help them in that journey of that mindset shift. It's not a magic pill that you take. You know, a lot of successful leaders in their life is really because they have someone good who accompany them in that journey, and someone who is able to be their check and balance and their sounding board and their advising board, you know, in their career journey, so that they can ultimately be the leader that they set out to be, right? So a leader has a lot of roles, and I will help you distinguish the difference between coaching and mentoring. And I know there's been a lot of, you know, very gray line here and there. So I will get to that, but I don't want to drill too much into that, because I want to focus on mentoring, which is my today. But I want to just show you that a leader obviously has a lot of accountability, right? And of course, responsibility and accountability. Now, depending on the in-house capability, some roles obviously have to be outsourced, and that's the reason why, you know, there's people like me and all the wonderful speakers here today. But at the same time, you know, we also have to look at how can we develop in-house talents and in-house capabilities so that you can focus on using external source for very specific things. And there must be a, you know, whenever I conduct training, I always tell people that it must be joint partnership. It cannot be, you totally have no L&D development areas or activities, and you don't have a strategy when we look at how are you going to develop your people. And then people like us will always come in to do the same thing, service training, you know, basic leadership training. And it's a waste of time because, you know, we can always come in to do other things. So there must be things that you have in-house so that people like us can come in and add value and bring you forward to the next level. But a leader has all these area of accountability and responsibility, right? And performance coaching is every leader's responsibility. And this is where I want to just drive the difference. When we talk about coaching, a lot of people are mistaken whether is it performance or are we talking about development. Now, when we talk about performance, obviously it is very skill-based, right? The domain knowledge have to be owned by the coach. And that's why I put it here that performance coach is every leader's responsibility, because as a leader, you need to help your team improve in the area of competency, and that performance coaching must be an ongoing activity that you need to have in your organization. Some places call that on-the-job training, on-the-job coaching, but it needs to happen because when we look at a person's skills, right, attitude and knowledge, that skills and knowledge is always being fed by the managers, and that is their responsibility. But development coach is something else, because in here we look at total development. We look at area of perhaps leadership skills and any other skills that is not technical. Now, in this case, if it's a development coach, the domain knowledge does not have to be owned by the development coach. So that's where sometimes you can hire a senior leader in-house if you think there's a capability, or you can outsource to people like us who can come in and help you, right? So, but coaching is more shorter term, whereas mentoring is a longer term. So in here we look at mentoring. There must be it is good, and I would encourage that every organization start to have that culture of mentoring in the workplace, because you know there is a pool of competencies that your leaders have that is wasted if you don't tap on them. So mentoring is passes on advice of a person who has been there before. So if you look at, say, your context of, say, your bank or your hospitality, you have your GMs, you have your RMs, you have your operation managers, you know, and some of them really have stayed on for a very long time, whether is it 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Now, it will be so wasted if we don't tap on that kind of experience, you know. So a lot of organizations, they come up with mentoring program because you need to start grooming or developing future leaders who will start to take over, you know, that senior leadership in future. You know, we just had the general election in Singapore just a few days ago. And, you know, we're a little bit sad because our mentor has sort of stepped down, and the people of Singapore are a little bit worried, you know, what's the program like for our next Prime Minister, right? So, but I can tell you that in the civil service here, they have a great mentoring program. They use the Prime Minister to mentor the next in line, and we're looking at like 3 you know, assistant deputy prime ministers, and they go through a very rigorous mentoring program from this guy who used to be the ex-PM of Singapore, and it has led to very successful outcomes because you know, that person needs to inherit a lot more things than just technical knowledge, but a lot of focus is on leadership and also culture and also politics, on how to deal with people, how to deal with the organization. So there is a role for a mentor, there is a role for a coach, but as a leader, there will be times that you may have to take multiple roles. And of course, depending on your skill set, whether you have that internal skill set, some of these roles need to be outsourced. But it is a heavy responsibility. And plus, when we look at leadership development, there is a lot going on, and you need to plan a rigorous, you know, leadership development program in order to equip the leaders to take on their role as a leader. If not, I always look at it as you're asking somebody to swim, but you never give that person a life jacket, and similarly, that will flows down to the staff as well, because the leaders will then throw a staff into the workforce or into the workplace operational floor without doing proper coaching, and in the end, they also struggle in the area of competency. Again, ultimately, who will suffer? The one that suffers will be the customer. So, performance coaching has to be done by the leaders. But when we talk about mentoring, it can be someone who's senior or more experienced than you. It could be a GM, or it could be a personal external source. And I'll share with you my own journey as I appoint, people in my life who has helped me in my career journey in mentoring, and how that has worked out for me. Okay. Now I want to come back into developing a balanced leader. So when we talk about leadership, you have a certain accountabilities. A leader needs to set direction. A leader needs to manage teams. A leader needs to build teams. It is a lot of responsibility, and you can imagine the amount of stress having to do all this, right? The leader also need to go through development program in order to brush up on their knowledge, their skills, and their attitude. But the biggest problem is that leaders are always functioning in the space of managing rather than leading. And if you look at the words over here, managing is a lot of task-based kind of jobs and things that you do, right? Whereas in leading, it's a lot of people-focused kind of tasks. So leaders all the time I see, and what I commonly see, is that they are functioning a lot in the pink space, but they're not functioning enough of the green space, and they forget that it is ultimately the people that will help you drive the task and the result. So if you're not going to develop a leader in the area of people skills, right, and team management skills, then again, you're going to start developing leaders who will only thrive because of authority and power, and they are not going to inspire. And when you don't inspire, you cannot influence. So developing leaders, you must look at the competencies and also the holistic development of developing character and also developing competence. Because if you're just going to focus on competence, then that's going to ultimately lead to a lopsided leader, which is not what you want. Because I can guarantee you that if an organization have too many of that lopsided leader who just thrive on power and authority and functional skills, you will start to drive your people away, and you will have very high turnover. So that needs to change, and your strategy also needs to change. So your leadership development programs and activities need to also have a good balance of brushing up in the area of people management and not just in the area of management. Because ultimately, a good manager doesn't mean that you're a good leader, but again, if you're a leader, you will definitely be a good manager. So it is more talent in Maldives and a lot of other people who has helped me in my journey. Thank you so much.